Well, hi, my name is Andy Tidy and welcome back to a much delayed continuation of Series 8 of Canal Hunter, a series in which we are trying to track down the original James Brindley route of the Birmingham Canal all the way through from its origins in central Birmingham to Wolverhampton. Horrible weather in the spring put the kibosh on finishing this series, which was really very frustrating. I wanted to get it done before the summer of 2023. But we left the last episode here at the top of the factory locks in Tipton. Well, we are finally back on track, and in this episode I want to trace Brindley's original route through from the lost Bloomfield junction to the head of the current navigation of the Brindley arm at CRT's Brindley Lockgate factory. But we've got a bit of a journey along the old main line to get ourselves to Bloomfield junction, so let's go. Well, here we are on the route out north from Tipton. We're cycling the old towpath past the sites of the old foundries and the various collieries. Destination, Bloomfield Junction. When Brindley surveyed this route, there was a mirror image to the Smethwick Hill. There was Coseley Hill. This was a ridge of land which was too high to go over, too difficult to go under, and his only option really was to go around it. And that's what he did. It added miles and miles to the journey, but as it so happens, the miles that he added were across rich coalfields and a burgeoning iron industry led by John Iron Mad Wilkinson, and that is the way we're going to go. Ask any contemporary boater for the directions to Bloomfield Junction and you're likely to get some scratching of the heads and some rather blank stares. This is a junction that hasn't existed for the better part of 70 years, but there are still some traces on the ground. Today, all you can see of Bloomfield Junction is the odd bit of towpath edging, which is inconsistent with all of the rest. But even this isn't actually the Brindley route. This is a reorganised one. The original line was somewhere back there just by the trees. It went into a splay of basins on the other side of today's railway tracks. However, all the old photos we've got are of the slightly realigned layout that led into the northern end of the Bloomfield Basin complex, just in there beyond the railway. But before we circle round and pick up on the trail, I need to offer a little bit of an explanation about the current canal which heads off to the north beyond me. Do you know, as far back as 1794, the construction of a tunnel under Coseley Hill had been authorised. In fact, the approaches had been built at both ends. They reached collieries and foundries, the usual sort of thing. But it wasn't until Telford surveyed the new route that money and commitment was found to complete this much shorter route. It cut a full 4 miles off the journey from Tipton to Wolverhampton. The tunnel was a massive engineering challenge due to the saturated ground that it went through. Ground which was riddled with abandoned mine workings. But it was finally completed between 1835 and 1837, a few years after Telford's death in 1834. It was built to his double-width design with towpaths on both sides, and it continues to be used today. These days, it's virtually impossible to visualise the dense network of basins here at Bloomfield. But fortunately, there were several canal enthusiasts out and about in the 1960s who took pictures of the area in decline. These days, there is nothing on the ground to suggest the canal layout, or indeed the brickworks and ironworks that they supported. Now, whilst Bloomfield basins have been wiped off the landscape, the same isn't true of the rest of the canal leading around to Brindley. The fingerprints of this old waterway still remain quite clear across the landscape, and that is what we're going to find. There's just the small matter of about 3 miles between here and there to cover. The first telltale tracks of Brindley's old route beyond Bloomfield Basin lie out to the west of Richard Bradeley Way, which continues into an open space just beyond the London North Western Railway line, which are the trees you can see running across the horizon. This is all the reprofiled site of the Tipton colliery, so the levels are all over the place. But the canal line more or less curved under where I'm standing now, heading straight for the houses ahead. The line I'm following is very much on the track of the canal, but I'm probably about 50 or 60 feet too high. This is all reprofiled land. It's the slag and the waste from Tipton colliery that's been reprofiled into another area of public open space. But then, as I turn around the corner, I'm starting to follow exactly on the line of the track. Through this section, the line of the canal is easier to see from the air. The canal track has become a footpath, and the entire width of the canal is taken up with this stand of trees. It's good to see a set of old BW radar gates still standing here. Although it's not authentic to the era, this is the site of the 1930s aqueduct built to facilitate the construction of the housing estate to my right. It's the aqueduct over Central Avenue. But we need to press on and follow in Mr. Brindley's footsteps. That means getting back up onto the level of the canal embankment. This winding footpath follows the line of the canal all the way around to Upper Church Lane, where progress on the ground is blocked by a sturdy steel fence. However, nothing stands in the way of the plucky little drone, so we'll send that up ahead of us to see what we can find. We're going to have to skip around the side to get to the site of Parker Bridge at Summer Hill, and that lets us back onto the line of the canal near what was the Moat Farm Colliery and is now the Moat Farm Estate. This, incidentally, is the only bridge on this line which has completely eluded us in our search for visual images from when this canal was an operating entity. And beyond Parker Bridge, whilst it doesn't relate to the Brindley era, there was the Upper Ocker Hill branch. It went off to the east to the Ocker Hill pumping engines, which were a central part of the water recirculation process for the BCN. It moved water from the Walsall level back up here to the Wolverhampton level 60 feet above. The Moat Colliery occupied the site to the east of the canal, and when it was regraded out, it was built over and forms today's Moat Farm Estate. The line of the canal itself is tracked by Upper Church Lane on one side and then across Field Road to the north. This section is known as Prince's End, and it's identifiable in all the old photos by a very large flock of swans which seem to have claimed the area as their own. Now, the route across the Moat Farm Estate is pretty indistinct. You'll need to refer to Google Maps a few times to find your way through the maze. But your objective at the far end, or the waymark for the canal, is the Glebe Farm Primary School. The canal runs right across it, or shall I say right under it. But for obvious reasons, because this is a school day, I am not filming anywhere near the school. The line of Brindley's canal follows the contour that I'm following on this path, curving away to the left. In fact, let's take the exact contour. And the direction we're going is beyond the children's playground and through a gap in the trees. But let's pop the drone up, see what we can see from above. Well, we can pick up the track of Brindley's original canal just to the west of the local Asda supermarket, where we cross the Wednesbury Road and go into the curiously named Weddell Wynd. This is a big horseshoe of open land, and the canal tracked the contour around the perimeter of a large shallow basin. It's now a big area of public open space. This is also the site of an 1840s canal improvement programme, where the loop was bypassed by a low embankment known as the Rotten Brunt line. This gave access to the Brindey locks, also offering another route down to the Walsall Level Canal. But for the purposes of our quest, we are seeking out Brindley's line, and we need to follow the old loop, which adds nearly a mile to the journey in this area. That said, the line of the old canal around Weddell Wynd is still very apparent. It loops us all the way around 180 degrees and leads us into the Brindley works, running under the adjacent factory car park. And so we have covered 3 miles of lost canal from Bloomfield through Summerhill, Prince's End, and then through here to Brindley. That means that we have completed the section allotted to us for this episode of Canal Hunter. From here on, we return to the land of the living canals and we head out to Wolverhampton. But all that is for another episode. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I will catch you again soon. Cheerio!